DeSanto Propane is 4 generations strong as a trustworthy, family-owned business with unmatched customer service. Go online at DeSantoPropane.com for more info or call toll-free at 1-800-752-4574 today. Since 1937, the difference has been DeSanto Propane.
Hey, welcome to FLX Weekly here on Wednesday, May 27th, 2026. I'm Jim Sinicropi, live inside the FingerLakes1.com studios here in Seneca Falls, and we got a great show today. It was about almost exactly a year ago that we had Bill Martin from Montezuma Winery in studio, and he announced that they had acquired Swedish Hill. And so, full circle, you've probably driven past Swedish Hill in the past year and seen the construction and a lot of changes going on. Well, today we're going to welcome, along with Katherine Chase from the Cuba Lake Wine Trail, Michael Reidy, the new winemaker at Swedish Hill. And we're going to sample some stuff, some wine right out of the tank, and talk about everything going on at Swedish Hill. And Michael's had a pretty incredible career. He went to Cornell and immediately started working for Hazlitt. And now taking over as the winemaker at Swedish Hill. So very excited about today's show. But first, this episode of FLX Weekly is brought to you by Nolan's Catering. Planning a special event? Let Nolan's Catering help you curate your next occasion. Now booking events at Hotel Canandaigua Tapestry Collection by Hilton on Lakeshore Drive, the Fallbrook House at Canandaigua Country Club, or Nolan's on South Main Street in Canandaigua. Nolan's is ready to curate a food and beverage package perfect for any occasion, from elegant weddings to corporate events and private parties. Enjoy the moment knowing Nolan's has it covered. To plan your perfect event, visit nolansonthelake.com. And also Seneca Falls Country Club. Since 1925, Seneca Falls Country Club has been one of the premier golf destinations in the Finger Lakes region. Their meticulously groomed 18-hole championship golf course overlooking Cuba Lake is a perfect combination of playability, beauty, and challenge. Book your tee time online at SenecaFallsCountryClub.com and be sure to check out their new member special with details at SenecaFallsCountryClub.com. So, Katherine, welcome back.
Thank you.
And I love it when you bring the winemakers in. And this one has a lot to it because, as I mentioned, a year ago, we were in here with Bill Martin, and they made the big announcement that that their family would be acquiring Swedish Hill. And now we're here a year later, and we're ready to get an update from new winemaker Michael Reidy. And Michael, thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
I really love talking to the winemakers because at the end of the day, this is such a big wine region. So you guys are the ones making the wine. So before we get into everything going on at Swedish Hill, first, I mentioned you went to school at Cornell, immediately started working at Hazlitt. When did you realize that this was the type of career that you wanted to pursue?
It was kind of organic the way it happened. I grew up my father was in the brewing industry my entire life.
Okay.
I was born in Maryland, but when we came up to this area, both sides of the family from Elmira. My dad worked for Miller in Fulton and then made the transition to Anheuser-Busch in my hometown of Baldwinsville. So he was there. I was one of those kids that didn't agree with college right off the bat. I saw too many movies. You're just supposed to hang out and have fun.
Right.
So that kind of, and I, popped around a little bit here and there. And my father had gone away on a business trip, and one day he brought me back a T-shirt, and I was just getting into craft brewing. It was like an epiphany moment. It's like, I love science. I didn't want to be behind a desk or in a lab, but this is something that I can craft, something I can enjoy, but I'm also using the science and the fun of it. So I started looking into it, and I originally wanted to go to Davis to kind of get out there in the brewing side of things.
In California.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Davis out there, residency if you want to get the prices and everything. So I had heard that Cornell was kind of starting this wine program, and you could kind of.
And how long ago was this? Because you look young, but you've been around for a while.
2004. I was a member of the first class of people. So now if you go to Cornell, you can major in enology and viticulture, which is enology is the study of wine, and viticulture is the growing of grapes.
But it was new back then.
There were 4 of us test subjects. There was Steve Fulkerson from Fulkerson Winery, Sarah. A young woman named Nova, who, if anyone knows anything about the wine industry, she's a she's a rock star. She's one of the second or third American woman to ever get a Master of Wine. So that's like a Master Somm, but on the technical side.
Yeah.
And then this other guy who I think he designs board games. Tim Rodriguez designs board games in New York City. He didn't go that same way, but literally 4 of us. And the year I got out of December of 6, and then, like I said, started the Hazlitt a couple days after that. That following fall in 2007, it became an official major. So you can go to Cornell and learn how to be a winemaker.
You paved the way for like the future.
Yeah, there were 4 of us, and it was kind of funny. And
that's cool.
Now they had the building, stocking halls had a complete redesign, really interesting. But we were basically piggybacking on the orchards and the dairy department, everything. We had little things. Now, if you go to their teaching lab, it's a tiny little version of a high-end winery. It's like they have tanks that are 5-gallon tanks, 10-gallon tanks that have glycol cooling systems, just like we have at the winery. So you can simulate and replicate all of that, but on a very small scale.
Pretty cool how, I mean, and certainly that program at Cornell and the way it's grown has been a big part of, the wine industry here in the Finger Lakes. It's a nice thing to have, like right there in the heart down in Ithaca. As you mentioned, you were looking at maybe UC Davis. So to have, a school like Cornell offer that right in the heart of wine country is pretty awesome. And you were one of the first.
Yep, one of the first, one of the guinea pigs.
So when you graduated, did you have your pick of the litter for jobs?
I sent out probably 10 applications.
Yep.
I heard back from like 2 people.
Wow.
It was Hazlitt's, and the other one was Lamero Landing.
Okay.
Also, I did this idea. Right out of school, I'm an assistant winemaker. I think that's the misconception there is like I've done little bits in here, but luckily Hazlitt was expanding, and given the education I had, the opportunity was there. But the first thing one of the most glorious things about being a winemaker is saying you're a winemaker.
Yeah.
It's dirty. I mean,
it's rare.
Oh yeah. I mean, you get your hands dirty. People that see me at harvest time are like, it's like, no, those are stains. Like, my hands are cleaner than any of your hands are. Like, these are literally just stained with red grape.
So, it's interesting to me that, that you got out, and like, where did winemakers come from before? Like, there were wineries around, obviously, back then, and they had winemakers, but were a lot of them self-taught, or?
It was a lot of, hey, mom and dad had the vineyards.
Yeah.
And, Gallo, whoever, Coca-Cola came in and took like, all the stuff that was going to Taylor and Great Western, and it just went away.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do? Now you're a winemaker.
Yeah.
So when I was at school.
So what you're saying is, back around that time, a lot of people were just buying grapes. They weren't making wine. Like Taylor Wine would buy the grapes from the farmers, the wineries that grew grapes but didn't make wine. And then when they stopped buying those grapes, all of a sudden all these farms turned into wineries because out of necessity.
Yeah. So when I was going to Cornell, I worked during the weekends. I worked at Lucas Vineyards, and that's a perfect example. They came up, the family came up, and were growing grapes. That all petered out, and Ruth Lucas was like, okay, well, I'm now a winemaker, and started that whole thing. So that's a great example. Is first winery on that lake, I want to say, and it's also really interesting because it's still this day, and it's getting better, but a very male dominated field and whatnot. But her out there doing that, building that place. So yeah, she literally just had to do it. So
to pivot.
Yeah.
Hosmer's the same way.
Yeah, so a lot of those wineries that are family-owned wineries, that's just kind of what happened. And then you had people coming out from, maybe some education, some chemical engineers, or some people that had backgrounds in chemistry. So you get people like, like would say Dave Breeden and people like that had some background and some stuff and kind of came into it and then got from there. But there's not a lot of people that were coming out with, like, I went to school for this. So now you got that, I'm kind of like, I would say generation 1 of the winemaking industry was Ruth Lucas, was Tunker and all those people, and then you had their kids coming after that. So it was like,
and then you start to mix in guys like you who actually
I'm like
studied
2.1, so like some studying, but then you're getting like Chris Stamp's kids, like Ben and oh God, what's her name? I can't remember. I can see your face, but they're that next generation. So they're really that third generation. I was like that 2.5 in the middle somewhere. So it's really interesting. We're only like in the third, fourth generation of like the smaller craft scale. I mean, you had the big guys. You had the Taylor. You had places like that. You had Naples, you had the Widmer facility. That kind of growing is interesting how it's all changed.
So you started as assistant winemaker at Hazlitt, which is a huge organization back then, even so big. What was, I guess, some of the things that you maybe didn't learn at Cornell that you realized in the real world application? Just what were some of the surprises when you start actually
Probably a
doing the
lot.
work?
I mean, yeah, mostly I think that's one of the things that is really lacking. I think it's very important. I took 2 internships. I did actually work for Anheuser-Busch down there in Newark, New Jersey. I took an internship in Long Island at Pellegrini Vineyards to work in the vineyard to see where it's really important for a winemaker to know where it's coming from.
Yeah.
So we did that, but a lot of people are in school. They're just like, okay, I'm just going to go out and be a carpet walker, a winemaker, and just get right into the stuff. It's like, no, you gotta learn how to crawl before you can walk. So cleaning, everything is like cleaning is essential. It's like cleanliness is next to godliness, and if you're taking water and making it into wine, that's kind of what you're doing. So lots of cleaning, constantly cleaning, and also you're a farmer. It's the best laid plans of mice and men. You're just expecting this to be the outcome. Okay, well, what happened? The weather changed. We are completely pivoting what we're doing.
Yeah.
The rosé we're going to taste was not going to be a rosé originally, but when we saw what was happening with the grapes, like, hey, this is the smart move to make.
And you make those decisions in conjunction with the owners and the
Vineyard manager, maybe?
Vineyard manager, and then Phil Plummer, who's the director of winemaking for the company now. Phil was the winemaker he's been at Montezuma as long as I've been had been at Hazlitt's, and now we work in tandem to do stuff
We
together.
had Phil on a couple of years ago.
Yeah, Phil's one of the reasons I took that job was an opportunity to work with Phil. I really respect him. He's got a really interesting way of looking at things. A lot of self-education. Like he just, he's like, okay, I guess I'm going to be a winemaker. So that, he's a perfect example of this guy out there. People are like, oh, you must have gone to school for this. He's absolutely not. He just she's self-taught.
Trial by fire.
Exactly.
So it's interesting to me too, talking to almost anybody from the wine industry around here, the respect for their, I don't even want to call them competitors, but their peers, and then the cooperation, the respect, and then the relationships that build sometimes over decades. And with wine, you could look at a glass of wine that maybe you make, and maybe you could say, well, I learned this from this person 20 years ago, and it's reflected in the way that this wine tastes. So it's just another layer of something that makes the Finger Lakes region such a great region for wine, and just wine in general. As someone who enjoys wine, there's a story behind every bottle, I guess, and it goes pretty deep sometimes.
To me, it's really there's a lot of people. The idea of people would want to go out to California. That's where you're going to go. You want to go out to the West Coast, and that's where winemakers go to become something. There's a lot of winemakers from that area coming here.
I've noticed that in the last 5 or 10 years, that's become certainly something that you see more often.
Which is exciting for us, I think.
And the attitude you're talking about, like the respect for the competitors, if you're like, these are our peers. We look at the ideas, and it's a lot of sharing. It's between people. There's not a lot of keeping your hand close to your chest.
Yeah.
Hey, how did you do that? Well, I'll tell you exactly how I did it, what I used. I can give you plans for a house, give you a bill of materials and whatnot. Your house is going to be different than my house.
Right.
It may have similarities, but they're going to be different.
Yeah.
And also the idea, that's the fun thing of watching this area grow. I mean, when I came out, it was still, the Finger Lakes. It's coming up. There's a couple of places now. It's every couple of years, it's the best winemaking region in the country.
Yeah.
So you're seeing a lot of that. So the rising tide lifts all boats. So if you're doing it that way, there's a wonderful winemaker that she's like, I love your Sauv Blanc. Alex Bond, she's actually at Hazlitt's now. She asked me, he's like, well, how do you do this? I told her. She started making her wine. Her Sauv Blanc's better than mine is now. And I'll tell her that. She's like, no, but I like yours. I'm like, but I like yours better. So that's just kind of the interesting way it is. It's like, and a lot of times for winemakers too, you get, we call it, there's either you get house palate or anti-house palate. You can taste your own thing, be like, it's not good.
Oh, right.
Yes, and then you're like, hardest critic of your own. Then you take your wine and go somewhere, maybe you're at a friend's house and you taste it, or you're out of work and you're like, that's really actually really good. So it's just kind of like you get that way. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of people develop that. I think an anti-house palate is actually quite beneficial. You don't want to. I like to say, I can pat my own back. I can't kick my own butt. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's a good way.
I would prefer that. Like, hey, tell me what you think about it and give me honest opinions. So.
So we are going to taste some wine, and we'll get into that in a second. But first, an update on everything that's going on at Swedish Hill, because as the past year has progressed, there's been a lot of construction out there, and it's been fun to see the development. But where is that kind of project at, and what are some of the things that you're willing to share with us, from the roadside view, the stuff we can see, or maybe even behind the scenes that's been going on with this major renovation at Swedish Hill?
Sure. The taste room is getting a complete revamp. So if you've been there before, you're going to recognize a couple of pieces. We still have that they call the octagon, which is really not an octagon, but I guess there's 8 sides. So they've maintained that footprint and the outer far wall. Everything else is going to this kind of basically like Greco-Roman style high. If you've seen the building at Montezuma, lots of windows, lots of natural light coming in, high peaked roof lines to be inviting, so you'll be able to see it from the road a lot more. There's gonna be natural light coming in both sides. You'll have a view out depending where you're standing. Nice thing in the inside, actually. The windows, the real special windows came in today. Came in a couple days ago. They're putting them in today. Electricity's all run. They'll be spray foaming. So once all that gets done, the spray foaming, then it's just, that cascade's going to start happening. So
you think it's by July 4th?
I think they would love it by that. I think that's a stretch. I think what you're looking at is probably, that real fall kick when that real, the leaf peepers and everyone, all that kind of fun stuff starts getting driven. I think you're going to see that.
But what's cool?
It's open now. I'm not trying to say you can't go.
They closed for one day.
One day when they were putting their roof trusses up. Yeah. But what's really cool is that you can see out the back right to where he's at. So if they're open in the fall, you might see him doing some harvest stuff right at the bottom of the property.
Yeah, our vineyards are real close. We lease 2 vineyards, and we have the main vineyard right there. We're actually also planning a new vineyard this spring. It is a Cab Sauv hybrid, so a big thing with the fluctuation with climate change and all this stuff. You never know what you're going to get. Every year is different.
Yeah, it's getting more in that way. I mean, a wet spring this year can be a good thing, right, for wine, as long as it doesn't continue too long into the summer, like maybe was it last year, where you have to worry about the heat and
stress and vines shutting down. I mean, that's kind of what happened with that rosé that we'll taste. Is like that. This is where we're at. So we got to make a pivot here and make a decision.
So when you were at Hazlitt, you became a head winemaker for the vinifera, I think you were telling me. So for kind of a certain lane. Now you're a head winemaker for the whole line at Swedish Hill. Just talk about how exciting that must be, and kind of how you're approaching it.
The way I look at it is, you treat them all the same. I mean, you respect just because. There's a Riesling or this and that. There are certain grapes that have just that, reputation and that air about them. Like, Finger Lakes is Riesling, and Cab Sauv or Pinot Noir or things of that nature. Just because a wine is made with a hybrid grape or a native grape or something of that nature doesn't mean it's any less of a wine, or should we treat it any worse. There's a wonderful wine at Montezuma that I think it might be an Idle Ridge wine that Phil Plummer made. That's called String of Pearls. It's a Pet Nat Diamond. So Diamond is a hybrid grape. It's inexpensive, but it's a beautiful wine. It tastes great. So that's kind of the thing is you treat them all equally and with love and respect, and that's a big thing. And also, there's a lot of grapes that I was aware of them, but I never worked with them. Everything I had was estate grown. I'm getting things like Frontenac Gris, never made that. I love Frontenac Gris. I'm throwing it in things all over the place. Like, what would make this wine better? Some Frontenac Gris. Valvin Muscat, some really interesting things that I've never got to play with. So that's really interesting to me, is seeing that. And then, just making a certain style of wine that might be that style of wine that has driven this area, the sweeter hybrids, natives. You're going to learn some tricks over there that you can then use on the other wines.
Right.
So
do you have a favorite?
Frontenac Gris.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just in general, are you like a red wine drinker? White? Do you have a?
I like to say that if you ask me what my favorite wine is, it is going to change depending on the barometric pressure, the time of day, everything.
Mm-hmm.
What am I having for dinner?
What's
what did
for
I
dinner?
have for dinner?
Yeah.
What time of day is
What's
it?
my mood?
Yeah. What am I listening to? What am I listening to in the cellars? All that stuff. I tend to really gravitate towards textured whites that have a lot of aromatics to them, but a good mouthfeel, and I really like that. And actually, some of red wines, I tend to gravitate more towards cool climate, Alto Adige, like Piedmont, northern Italy. So more acidity, more fruit driven, that kind of stuff. Those are the wines I kind of really like. Wines with like finesse and nuance. I think when I was younger, I was making a lot of very, I would say, masculine kind of just big wines, just to make big wines.
Yeah,
And the wines I like better now.
Want to show off a little bit. Yeah.
Exactly. The biggest tannic structure, the biggest alcohol. I think the wines I like now have a little more balance and femininity to them, and a little more just nuance, as opposed to just whacking somebody over the head with something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. So I guess that's a good segue to actually try some of these wines. Now, these are from the tank, so explain kind of in general, what that means, as opposed to when someone brings a finished bottle in here and we sample that.
Sure. So these are all they're varying levels of filtration. So what happens is the wine ferments. With a white wine, it ferments ferments in a tank, it's juice, but there's a bunch of stuff in there, yeast and whatever. We've got to filter that out, either centrifuge it or pad filter, do things, or you can just let it sit and it'll over time settle out. So there are things here like that rosé is pretty much ready to go. We will taste that rosé. I'm going to clean filter it. We'll put it in the bottle. Pretty much nothing's going to happen to that.
And it's been in the tank for how long?
That's been in the tank for, I want to say, let's see, that probably finished fermenting early November. So you're looking at, 6 months or so. That rosé came in on October 9th was our picking day.
What is the grape for that one?
Zweigelt, which is a Austrian grape.
Mm-hmm.
It's a grape that I really enjoy. I've worked with it before when I was over. I used to have my own little wine line for a hot minute, but then when I was the winemaker at Hazlitt's and I had no assistant, I couldn't. I got to dedicate my time to the people who were doing stuff.
Sure.
But it's a fun little wine.
Well, should we start with that one?
Trying it, yeah.
You can start with that one. Why not?
All
so
right.
that's the closest to being a done product.
Bottle ready. It won't
Yeah.
change much flavor-wise,
Nope.
aromatics.
We're going to bottle this. This will be bottled under our Blue Waters label. Okay. So this will go to bottle here in probably in a couple of weeks. When the other vintage sells out, we'll start selling this one.
Yeah, this is great.
I love the acidity. I like higher acid wines, and this has it for me.
I tend to as well. It just gives some light, some liveliness.
It's light. Mm-hmm. You mentioned there is a little acidity in there, but it's a good summer wine.
It's gorgeous too.
Well, it's in that fun color. So last year was a really interesting example of a year. Last year was warm climate, hot climate viticulture.
2025.
Yeah, okay. 2025. Typically in the Finger Lakes, we are waiting for our sugars to develop, the levels of sugar ripeness we want, level of physiological ripeness.
And that happens with the grapes on the vine still, right?
We go out there, we sample, we taste, we make decisions. Picking decisions are based, typically, you want to make the decision based on, I like the flavor, I like this, I like everything about it, let's go pick this. Sometimes Mother Nature dictates.
Yeah.
If it's going to rain a decent amount, and I'm thinking about picking on a Wednesday, and it's going to rain an inch on Tuesday, well, I'm going to pick on Monday because it's going to dilute that juice. Mm-hmm. So last year, we were actually, our sugar numbers were up. Our acids were down. We were waiting for flavor. So usually your flavor development has already happened, and then we're waiting for the sugars and the other numbers to catch up. Last year was the opposite. So that was the opposite of what we're used to.
Yeah.
We were waiting for the flavors to develop. So
every year's different.
Yeah,
which is what makes every vintage unique, and it's.
So we were seeing some drought stress in this thing, and then it's like, okay, that was going to be red wine. We're not going to get to that level of ripeness we want for the red wine.
Yep.
So we went out and picked it. So make a nice rosé. That's what we did. And also, I pressed this to like 1 bar, which is not hard. And even I decided to stop pressing. I'm like, okay, it's getting too dark to be a rosé.
You say 1 bar. What does that mean?
1 bar of pressure. So when we operate in the press, I have it's called a pneumatic bladder press. So there are ones that have a tube down the middle. Basically, it's like this. I have a big cylinder. One half is a balloon that inflates and deflates depending on what the computer tells it, or screws or things I can turn. It just kind of flows and does its thing. It presses and it backs off and rolls and breaks the grapes up again and does it again. So you start and you build over time.
Oh, I thought you guys just took your shoes off.
I mean, for the amount of wine Swedish Hill wants to make,
Right.
we'd need a lot of feet.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's an amazing rosé. I think it's probably one of my favorites in recent memory.
And so at this point, before it's bottled, does it have a name?
Like I said, it's just going to be Blue Waters Dry Rosé. That right now, and I don't know if we'll really tell people it's a Zweigelt. I've made Zweigelt Rosé before, and I really like that grape for a rosé. I think there's a lot of that strawberry cherry flavors that people really tend to like gravitate towards, especially for, like you said, like it's a summer wine. I mean, that's a perfect idea for that kind of wine.
All right, so what's next?
Probably do the white there, the Riesling that's next to the rosé in the taller glass. So there's a big thing about Rieslings, and there's a big move towards natural winemaking, and people call it natural winemaking. So minimal intervention. You don't do a lot of stuff to things. You try to steer the process, but to let the wine do what it wants to do. When I was taught winemaking, you buy a block of yeast, you add a certain amount based on this, you do these steps to make it go and do their thing. Now, they'll make a very consistent, fun wine, but they also make very similar wines all the time. I like to do some of that, and then this wine was never inoculated, so we never put a commercial yeast strain in there. But at a winery, there's yeast everywhere. There's yeast that came in on the grapes. There's yeast on the in the hoses, on the pumps, in the tanks, on the fittings, everything. So if you get a nice clean juice and you put it in a tank and you keep you keep the headspace gassed out, so no oxygen, so it can't cause a problem. There's a yeast that'll start growing on the surface. You can see these this kind of web start thing. I think it's just this white layer across it. It's called a floor yeast, and it's not FLOOR.
And so you don't add that. That is just naturally kind of occurring.
And if I see that, especially in a Riesling tank, I'm like, I know I'm gonna like this. And it's gonna have some interesting fruit flavors. There's gonna be some tropical stuff to it, but it's really fun because you see these spider webs start to form, and then it gets more solid. But then as the wine underneath it, the juice starts to ferment, it starts making little bubbles, but the bubbles don't pop. So you've got these little igloos over the top of it. And then after a while, enough yeast is doing it, it just starts to turn over. So this was picked October 24th at like 26 or 22 and a half bricks. So there's 12.5% alcohol in this. There's probably a percent of sugar plus. The thing with Riesling, especially in this area, I would like to have as many tanks as I can. We inherited a lot of wine in the sale, so we were kind of limited in what I would normally have like 8 to 10 different batches of Riesling, and then you build your Rieslings based off of like, okay, 2 parts of this, a half a part of that. So
But by blending the different wine from the different tanks? Okay.
Make a different wine. This is gonna, this could be, I would see this as a big component to probably a dry reserve Riesling, but I could also see some of this being put into something that was picked early, that didn't have a lot of ripe fruit, that had a lot of higher acidity, that would be almost like a semi-dry. So
whereas the rosé we just tasted is pretty much going to go into the bottles as is, this is probably going to be blended with others and then bottled.
I've always said that winemaking is, I'm a big beer drinker. I still love my beers. People are like, what do you drink when you go out to, what wines you drink when you go out? I'm like, if I'm going out, unless I'm going to get dinner, I'm wearing a Utica Club hat.
You have a beer.
Yeah, yellow beers. Like, that's what I was raised on. It's like that, something like that and light. Brewing is baking. Time, temp, ingredients, measured out exactly. This is what you need to be doing. There is some room and play, but there are recipes. So that's but when you cook, if you're in the kitchen, I'm going to make tacos tonight.
Dash of this, a dash
Yeah,
of that.
hey, I made that marinade last night for the steak tacos. Throw a little
I have
lime
this
in
certain pepper that
Yeah.
was fresh at the store.
Exactly. Throw things at it, kind of like you play it. So there's still all that science technique behind it. You got to know what's going to happen. You got to know if you have too much acidity, too much salt, add some acidity, it'll knock it down. So you got to learn how to play in that area. But winemaking's a lot more kind of bouncing around and seeing how things are going to go.
Yeah, definitely Riesling.
Yep.
So what's next?
So
Go the other white.
let's go the other white. And we're going to keep getting bigger. So this is Gewürztraminer.
Oh, my favorite white.
Well,
You can tell just off the smell.
yeah, very unique flavor and aroma. It's a very polarizing grape. You either love it or you hate it. Or yeah, I love it too. It's all the floral notes to it, the lychee fruit flavors, all this tropical stuff. Can be a picky grape. You can also make a lot of different styles with it. We picked a bunch, and we had a lot of fruit out there last year. It was a lot of good fruit. We ended up leaving some out there. We picked this at 30 bricks. So bricks is a measure of sugar. If you pick in Gewürz, typically I'd be picking it in the 23 range, 24 maybe.
It was about what you said that Riesling was.
Yeah. So that Riesling is actually probably a little higher than I normally would pick it, but I would probably be right around the 22. Like that's top end.
Wow.
For
you
average
really
Gewürz.
taste the sweetness.
Yeah. So there's probably 10% sugar in this still, but there's 12% alcohol. So this is just going to be one of these weird, fun kind of things. If I just kept fermenting, I'd have just straight booze.
It's very smooth though.
So what happens with this before it gets in the bottle?
Figure out what it's going to be. So that's an interesting component. We could take this. I could blend maybe some of that Riesling or another tank of Riesling. Maybe I get some.
This would blend well with the Riesling we just had, I think.
Try.
Mix them.
Yeah. In my mouth.
So yeah,
gonna be a winemaker
that's kind of
over
the
there.
idea. I mean, that's what we do. Figure out what this could be. I could see this being a product that's just out there, fun to drink. Maybe cut it down a little bit. I could see blending with a bunch of stuff. This is something that one of the interesting things about being part of the, joining Swedish Hill and the Martin family is there are things we got to hit the mark. We got to do this, and we want our Svenska Red to be this. You walk into a store, you get it, and it's very consistent. But there's also a lot of room for fun to play. So this was kind of one of those things where it's like, hey, let's let that hang out there. The grapes are right. They're not falling apart. They're ripening. They're getting more interesting. It'll be something fun we could do.
Yeah, I tell you, these together was really, really good.
Yeah. I could see that, and then I would even throw some Pinot Green with that, and then see what would go along with it.
I think the one thing that the most people, or maybe not most people, but people who are just casual wine drinkers don't understand is that they probably think that these wineries are like, okay, we got this acreage of this grape and this, and we're going to make this, this, and this, and we're going to call it this and bottle it that. But what you're saying is those decisions are made after the harvest or during the harvest, and then even sometimes, later on down the road. So you don't say, okay, we're going to try to make 24 bottles of this exact type of Riesling based on this grape. You kind of let it play out and then make those decisions.
Yeah,
on the fly, kind of.
I think that's again cooking and baking, baking and brewing and cooking and winemaking. You get like, hey, what are my raw materials? In the brewing industry, you're getting everything's gonna be the same.
Yeah.
For winemaking, it's gonna be different every year. Like, hey, man, this was a great year for tomatoes, so I'm really gonna be focusing on doing this. Or you're gonna push things in a direction based on the year. If you sit there and look at, hey, I have to make this the same as I did last year, it's never vintage.
You won't be able to.
You can compare them. Yeah. You can look at your notes and guide yourself in a certain way.
Every Budweiser's a Budweiser, but that doesn't work with wine.
Well, yeah, when I worked for them
last year, maybe Camus or one of those. Would they strive for that consistency? But
they do.
They have to manipulate that probably, right? Like make a purple or whatever.
Sounds harder.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you want consistency. When I did do that internship for Anheuser-Busch, once a week, you tasted the 12 domestic beers, Budweiser from each of the 12 domestic breweries. You tasted a Bud Light. You took notes. Everything was supposed to taste like St. Louis. There would be notes like, hey, Merrimack, too long in the kettle. Los Angeles, great job. Baldwinsville, really, it's right where it's supposed to be. And then they would go back to the brewers at those places. They want that. Yeah. We want to maintain certain things. You talk about vinifera winemakers. Some of the most discerning palates out there are people like the sweet native stuff. They're like, this is a different vintage. It's like, well, yeah, but it's a continuous. There's no, it's like, no, this is a different batch. It's like, well, actually, technically, we use some of the last year's stuff and some of this year's stuff, and we're doing that gap stuff. So there's some very discerning palates out there. So yeah, you want to hit that note all the time.
Yeah, definitely interesting.
That's what makes being a wine drinker so fun, though, because it does change.
Yeah.
I know some.
You're always searching for what could be next,
Yeah.
or what could be, you're searching for the thing that you really like, and then maybe there's a better version
You
out
have
of
to
that
cherish it
because of
too.
a
It might not be
certain
the same.
vintage. Yeah.
Well, if you'd like to buy a couple more bottles, put a couple
stock
down,
up on what
stock
you do
up
like.
on
'Cause
stock
next
up on
year
them.
it might be
Yeah,
different.
I will definitely advocate that. But yeah, it's fun to to chase things around and see what's going to be. But if you attach yourself to that need, it has to be this wine. You're going to do the wine a disservice, and it's going to make things very difficult on you. And it's square peg round hole. You're going to try to force something that you could have just let it do its thing, and it would have been it would have been a really wonderful product. So yeah.
I think
I'm blending my own wines for the first time. I love it. I really, that's very interesting to me. Just the way that those two came together when I mixed them.
It's never really been broken down like that for us, I don't think,
Really?
about like the cooking with the ingredients. And like I understood it obviously, but the way you made me picture it, it sounds so exciting. I can see why you really love your job.
That's why we're going over the time on this
Yeah, it's
episode.
worth it.
I mean, the one funny thing about that would be you can I put Riesling into reds before. Why? Because it made it better.
Yeah, I could see that. So the final wine, this one's going to be much different. I can already tell.
Yeah. So this is a baby port. So port, traditionally, the way you make a port is you bring in grapes, you make a red wine. And
Late
then,
season grapes usually.
so
These
these are
on
these
the
are Chambersons, and we did a process called hot pressing. So typically, you get reds. You would put them in a tank with skin. You on their skins. You get the color out of that way. We have a process where we warm the grapes up really hot, add some enzymes, press this stuff, and then we basically have this color, this red, like right off the bat.
Yeah, this looks almost. I don't want to say unnatural, but it almost looks like it must have been manipulated somehow to get this deep, dark.
No, it's just,
color,
it was just
but-
that year, and
yeah.
I mean everything was deep. I mean that rosé that's a good example. If I pressed those grapes in a year that was cooler to that same amount of pressure, it wouldn't be that color. So that flux. So we get that. We ferment it out to a certain point. I mean this stuff came in, I want to say, at 22 bricks, so 22% sugar essentially. I got to about 11% sugar, 11 bricks, and then I throw a bunch of high test grape brandy at it. That stops the fermentation process. So the sugar in there is grape sugar. We didn't add anything back. The brandy stops the fermentation, and then we put it in the barrel. So this stuff is 12% sugar, 20% alcohol, and this is going to be a part of our port program. So we're going to
And
build
so
a
when would this finally be available? What we're tasting finally be available to
minimum.
consumers?
I've got to build a port.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to use some port that we have from a number of years
This
ago.
is also an ingredient.
Yes, again, same thing. But also, I want to take some of this. We have 8 barrels of this. And you notice that
It's almost like a distillery whiskey.
So that's another thing is that
It's good though.
the
Yeah, it
brandy
is.
needs its time to integrate and smooth itself out. Most of the time, ports are 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. So I want to take this and use some of this as a blending component to a port we'll be making soon. But then I also want to leave some barrels and just let this hang out and see what this tastes like in 5, 10,
for
15
years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That has a really good flavor, but I had to put it down because it's really strong.
Yeah. Like I said, 20% alcohol. So it's it'll get you, and you know it. I mean, it's
Yeah.
and it's definitely the grape brandy's definitely integrated itself much
Do
better.
you make the grape brandy in house as well?
It's made at Montezuma.
Cool.
Yeah.
So when you say grape brandy, what do you mean?
So it's vodka is typically potato vodka, grain vodka. Brandy is you ferment a grape juice out, you make a wine out of it, and you distill the wine.
Okay.
So when you talk, you like cognac is a grape brandy. So they make a wine, they ferment it, they distill it, and then they put it away. So that's grape brandy. So if you're making a port, you want to use, and you could throw some grain spirits at it, but if you really want to make a port, you should be using.
Are most ports made that way?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
This is
Port is a specific.
very specific kind of way.
I just didn't know that it was
It's fortified, yeah.
fortified with grape brandy.
And the reason they do it, I mean, a lot of the reasons they do most of the things is out of necessity. No one was drinking red wine, and it's like, I want to chew on a piece of burnt oak wood. Like, you didn't get that. So this was fortified so it could last the journey. So you got stuff that was like, okay, we made this, throw a bunch of booze at it, it'll preserve it. It can make the journey from X, Y to Z. So that's a lot of those things is out of necessity. This is why this is, and it just became part of the culture. There's a wine out there called Retsina that tastes like pine saw because they used to seal the amphoras with a cork, and they put pine pitch around it to seal it, put it on a ship, and goes away. When you take that wine out, and you can still buy this stuff, put it to your nose, it smells like pine saw.
You can drink it and clean with it.
So, but yeah, no one thought this is what we should do. They just did it, and there you go.
Well, very interesting stuff.
Wow, we could be here all day learning a bunch of fun stuff, I feel like.
Yeah, we've already gone over a little bit, but that's okay. It was a great episode, and Michael, I appreciate you coming in, and good luck at the new position at Swedish Hill, where you've been there for about a year now.
I'll be August 6th, my 1 year anniversary. Yep.
Yeah, well,
it's before I know it, because that's harvest is right around the corner.
Yeah, I'll be excited to come down this summer and see how the construction's going, and then hopefully again in the fall when you're hoping that maybe everything's complete, and and taste some of these wines, knowing that I already had a sneak preview.
When you get there, maybe you'll find that thing you just blended is in a bottle somewhere.
You're like, this tastes familiar. Did I make this?
This is a blend of the Riesling and the Gewürz that was. So yeah, definitely awesome. I really appreciate it, and congratulations on the new job, and and the success of Swedish Hill, which I think is going to go to a new level with you as a winemaker and everything that the Martin family's doing. It's all good stuff.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate having me.
So Katherine, another month, end of June. We'll see what you got for us then. The last Wednesdays of the month come fast now.
They really do.
I don't know if it's because we're getting
Especially
older.
this holiday weekend. It snuck up on me yesterday.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, thanks for setting this up and for a really entertaining episode of Wine Wednesday here on FLX Weekly. And we hope that you enjoyed it, and thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed the show, click like, share, and subscribe, or even better, leave a comment below. We'll be back again next Wednesday with Andrew Olden from the Seneca Museum. We'll be talking about music in the park in Seneca Falls, which is kicking back up. I think he's got a lot of cool things happen. So until then, have a great weekend. Weather looks great, finally. A weekend of good weather. Enjoy it.